So the power of the pasty continues as we wade into the second game, the afternoon game from Saturday at Plymouth. So by this time, of course, I have eaten a pasty upstairs in the bar at the Plymouth show. So that's always a good start. And look at that, that's a wonderful picture of a pasty there as it recedes away into the distance, much as mine did as I ate it. So here in this second game, we're playing the Torquay Terror, the Beast of Brixham. It's Steve Price, and his rather bizarre Syracusan army, which it's a fascinating army actually. I think I've used it myself in a club competition because it's a hoplite army, but it's got a lot of interesting stuff, and Steve managed to find a very interesting way of using it as well, with a whole wall of hoplites on this pretty open side and a lot of rough terrain over here, and very unusual, picked out the book. I don't think anybody had spotted this before. Carthaginian ally with a couple of spearmen, elephant, some Gauls, I think, more kind of Gauls and hairy people over here, bit of skirmishers, and these two things, which we'll come on to later. And I'd set up, I guess, with my army, with the way that this Alexandrian army is kind of set up, there's only so many ways to skin a cat, really. So faced with terrain like this, you're basically forced to put the elephants and the Thracians over here somewhere to go into this terrain, and then you're kind of forced to shove the other stuff kind of here, but and then take the cavalry on the wing. However, because Steve's army ended up being deployed very much in this terrain heavy corner, that's kind of drawn my whole deployment over this way as well to try and match it, not to be outfaced, and it shoved the companions right up to the edge of the board to try and get around, pick on the cavalry at this end of this line of spearmen, sort of ignore that line of spearmen bizarrely, try and rush through and have a go at these couple of artillery pieces, and then have as much stuff as possible here to engage in this rough troops area where my two spearmen, my three Thracians, I think it is, my javelin men and the elephant can all hopefully sort of play around in this area and not worry too much about these large bits of terrain. But let's see how it sort of packs out with these guys being led by the general, the elite spearmen here, the Thracians with their curved cutting weapons, all cobbled together from various different bits of Victrix kits, the elephant over there, all getting ready to take on this slightly hodgepodge sort of Carthaginian and surprising amount of medium foot, medium swordsmen, medium spearmen, impetuous guys over here, and mix out with them. And let's have a look at Steve's Archimedean artillery list. So you've got that list, or this command that you've seen on the right there of my army, two elite heavy spearmen, two normal spearmen, so you've got up to 4 spearmen there, 2 mediocre makes it up to 6. You've got a couple of heavy cavalry and a light cavalry javelin, which is a decent enough outriding force, and then you've got those 2 heavy artillery, which Steve's effectively put in the middle of his army. So this is the intriguing one with a brilliant general. 2 medium swordsmen impetuous, 2 medium spearmen, nothing particularly scary there, as it would look. A heavy cavalry and a light cavalry, that's the other outflanking sort of wingman force. And then this Carthaginian ally in the middle, 3 elite light infantry javelin, which is a pretty solid thing to take into difficult terrain. The poor quality elephant, a couple of spearmen, which is boring, and a light cavalryman. Sort of helps with scouting points because you've got what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 light cavalry, then 3, 4. Is there? No, actually, it doesn't even get up to the extra point for light infantry there. But it's all about providing protection and opportunity for those heavy artillery. And here we go. This is the companion cavalry and the normal Greek cavalry swinging up on that flank, really drifting out to the edge of the table, almost threatening to join in another game next door over there, and putting a lot of pressure immediately, or showing that there's going to be pressure on these normal bog standard Greek cavalry and the single light horse here. There's a lot of, clanking, clattering, just running them over with long spears. There's Zeistafore just going to charge these guys and hopefully then roll up the flank of those hoplites before they can react. Over here in the middle, you've got the fabulous Archimedes mirrored death rays, which allegedly, as we'll get shown onto in a bit, were used to try and set fire to ships. And here they're setting fire to, trying to melt, I guess, these plastic pikemen who are looking at them kind of going, well, you know, your artillery, whoop-de-doo, we are going to advance into range, but there's not a lot here to stop us just advancing. And it's interesting, you know, you do the maths. Artillery in ADLG, basically everybody has a factor of 0 when they're being shot at, and the artillery shoot at a factor of 0 as well. The mechanics, just a straight opposed dice roll. You need to win to cause a hit. So 2d6, rolling off, draws don't count, losses don't count. So you're getting a hit 15 times out of 36. In doing that, slightly less than half the time. A normal game of ADLG lasts 6 or 7 turns. You shoot in both halves of a turn, the attacker's turn and the defender's turn. So there's kind of 12 shots there, of which you should probably hit 5, maybe 4. But then you know that's assuming the artillery are never contacted and never hit, and these pikemen are just trying to rush at them. And this is where this ambush marker and these light infantry play a role, because they stop the pikemen getting the unopposed longer moves that they're allowed to do when there's no infantry in the way. So I'm thinking these guys are going to take some damage, but we should still get there. And as long as you know we get into them, they should explode, and then we'll do some damage to the spearmen. It occupies them. My companions will roll them up, and then the rest of my force can sweep through this terrain and have a go at these little isolated spearmen. I've got the cavalry behind, so the pikemen can kind of separate. The cavalry can zoom through from long range and run over the artillery as well. Boom, straight into the back of the army. So it's not the end of the world. The classic thing to do with artillery is just take them on, really, same as you do with side chariots. So let's have a look over on the other side. Here's the Gauls, here's the spearmen, here's the Carthaginian elephant that's moved up to work with them. And I'm just ready to oppose this with pikemen, with elite spearmen, my own elephant. It's just kind of, you know, the Gauls could do well against these guys, but I think they're elite, they're pikemen. We're better than these guys. And Steve's actually got these light horse caught in between. One of my favourite things to see, seeing light horse getting caught in between a very rapid advance. So that could be a bit of a mess for these guys as well. So I'm just thinking push through, take whatever they're going to give us on the chin and grind them down, and then push through on this flank as well. So in the middle, the Carthaginian light infantry have moved up to the edge of this bit of terrain, and my Thracians and javelin men are thinking, well, we'll just sweep through, and then suddenly that looks like a really tempting target. Maybe the Thracians will run these guys over here as well. What can these light horse do? Not a lot against a line of infantry. So it all seems relatively straightforward at this point in time. But boom, boom, here comes the artillery. It's 1, 2, 3 shots, or probably a couple of shots, and suddenly lots of my guys are suddenly taking hits. There's all sorts gone over here. And if you look, yeah, that all fits together. So that's 2 hits there, that's a hit there. The artillery are hitting every time they're shooting. They've got a huge arc of fire. They can pick their targets. They can knock one off as many people as they want. And the artillery really got their range in here, really doing really well. Here, I'm just keeping a big solid line. There's nothing really to scare medium infantry here. We've got the elephants have drifted across to take on the mediocre elephant there, or even better, get into the medium swordsman. These Thracians starting to get ready to go into the terrain and engage these little javelin men. I've got my own skirmish screen here. Steve's just about managing to extricate these light horse, only just. His cavalry's having to flee, so nothing here to threaten these guys. And it's a nice solid line of stuff with the pikemen there as well, ready to take on this bit and push through the terrain. Over here, we've drawn a load of these hoplites out. Let's see what those guys are. Are they foundry, possibly? We've drawn a lot of these guys out, but my cavalry have drifted out as they've gone wide. So we're really ready to go into these 2 bog standard cavalry, use the overlaps, get a little bit of extra width if we can, and try and punch through the bits that we can beat and try and ignore these hoplites if we can as well. And just to make sure that happens, we've left the heavy cavalry and the light horse just to keep this end of the line honest. If they swing around too much, these guys will be into their flank. So we're just trying to keep these 3 sort of busy with too many targets while we hit the heavy cavalry on the end and see what happens. So what's happened here, back on the other side, the Gauls, the spearmen, they've just all gone in. They've all drifted across a bit, so I haven't managed to get my elephant into the Gauls. But, you know, mediocre elephant against normal elephant with an overlap, that's pretty good. My javelin's kind of ready there to join in. Elite spearmen could be in trouble against those guys if it goes well. Pikemen, but pikemen's still a decent factor. Medium spearmen against pikemen, it's not too bad at all. This should should probably net out for me in the end with a bit of luck. Oh no, it doesn't. No, not really. The Gauls have gone straight through the elite Syracusan. The Gauls have done 2 hits there, and these medium spearmen have done 3 hits on this end phalanx. It's been an absolute immediate catastrophe. These are impetuous. They have to follow up. They must have done so in Steve's turn, and the elephants are still fighting it out. I'm not even sure if I've done any damage there. So suddenly, what was supposed to be kind of a holding thing that I win in the grind just doesn't look like that at all. This is suddenly absolute disaster. He can attack both flanks. The pikemen are already lost effectively with this many hits. They've only got 3 hits between them. They're overwhelmed. They're overlapped. This has just suddenly gone horrendously wrong. Over here, what's happened? It looks like the hoplites have managed to send some people forward, and they've sent one up to support their cavalry. I've ended up going in partly against hoplites, partly against the other cavalry, but that probably means some of their cavalry are fighting my light horse here, and I'm compensating a little bit with this overlap that can put some threat on it. So this is not ideal. This is ideal. Looks like there is a hit marker in there, which is kind of good. Nothing so far, but not as good as it should have been, really. The Syracusans are sort of sidestepped enough to make that challenging. Over here, we're just pushing forward, and these guys are sort of falling backwards, but not quite managing to get in there and chase them off, because they are throwing out still some shooting. I think that's the shooting hit earlier on. So, and these guys have got to think about the risk from this cavalryman. Can they go into the flank of that elephant? The elephant is facing this way. It's just got a massive head, so if the 2 elephants go face to face, they wouldn't fit. So it is actually facing forwards, facing my elephant there. So we've not yet started pushing these guys out of the way. What's happening over here? Well, my light horse are coming off worst against injured cavalry, which is a bit of a shame. My bow-armed light horse are coming off worst against javelin-armed light horse. My companion here, which may well be the general, has done a hit on this one, but possibly 2. But this one, going into a spearman in the open, even with an overlap, even with being elite, even having armour, he's still taking a hit. So this is not really the quick breakthrough that I want. In fact, there's only sort of 2 damage units in there, and these spearmen can now come and start to drive my cavalry off and tip the balance here as well, which is again less than ideal. The elephant on elephant fight is still going on. I've had to drag some Thracians around to try and prevent these guys doing another bit of a breakthrough. The pikemen are still fighting, but not a lot's changed. It's not got better. I can guarantee you that. And with cavalry kind of lurking about, there's still difficulty for me to do too much. I've not managed to push through there because all sorts of commands are having to spend all sorts of pips on this. So here, this end of the line is just starting to explode, but it's exploding in the wrong way. I've lost both my light horse. My cavalryman's been driven away by these aggressive spearmen, and all I've done is knock one of these cavalry away, but that's it. And this one is now starting to look really exposed. So suddenly I could end up from having 5 cavalry in play here against what looked like 2.5. Suddenly I could very soon end up with just 1, which is not exactly what you want to have happen at all, is it really? So over here, I'm flipping on the other side. These deadly spearmen have taken down a pike phalanx. This phalanx is still holding on. The Thracians have struck back against the overeager Gauls who've come through, taken them out. My ordinary elephant with an overlap is still struggling to beat this mediocre one. We're just getting bogged down in people that we should have pushed through. It's just not getting the rub of the green. It's just not working out. That initial assault, the ferocity of that initial assault has really just more than stopped my ability to get involved in a grinding battle of attrition here, which I want to come out the best of. And again, over on the other side, you can suddenly see my cavalry start to get a bit mobbed. These guys have had to come back. They must have evaded away. They've started to come back. And this guy's, because people are sort of sliding into him, this is an ongoing combat. His lance doesn't really count in an ongoing combat. He's not charging into someone. He's just involved in a prolonged fist fight. So this is just really starting to look like some isolated stuff. And this has turned from a breakthrough area to how slowly can I lose here area. In here, the Thracians have finally gone into those light infantry, or actually no, it looks like they've gone through. They've chased them all the way through, and have gone into these two spearmen and a Carthaginian cavalryman over here, which Thracians into spearmen, spearmen into spearmen should sort of be all right, but I could probably have done without having to face that cavalryman. And it's nip and tuck, but it's just everything I'm doing isn't quite working in this one. And just to show exactly, this elephant, which as I said before is facing into mine, still has failed to die. And I've now the cavalry is busy. I've gone into it with my javelin, and it's still bloody there, isn't it? Look how happy and smug that little guy is up on top of his little multicoloured Carthaginian powder thing up there, which again I suspect is a good deal for advertising Victrix and little big man shields. So yeah, but that elephant is still fighting remarkably well, and it looks like I'm kind of missing a Thracian now. I'm not quite sure where he's gone. Must have escaped somewhere. So finally, we do kill him, and we get some elephant rampage because the guy's dead. Don't forget he's facing this way, and Steve, of course, rolls a 1, which means that the hit, the elephant, when it breaks, it flees forwards and tramples into my own elephant and gives me a hit. This is just like every single thing is the worst possible outcome. This guy should have died long time ago with all the overlaps he's had. He's hung on, and even in death, he's done some more damage to my army. Over here, what's happening? This Thracian is actually sorting stuff out almost on his own, as these pikemen are still engaged. It looks like they've finally turned the tide, even with 2 hits, and managed to take those Gauls down. And the Thracians killed a guy over here. He's turned. He's gone into another spearman, taken one out. Probably I should have had an army just entirely of Thracians. They've got the cool stripy cloaks and stuff. And the general's blowing the trumpet. It's all going on, but it feels like a little bit too much too late, really. And look what's happening here. Thracians and spearmen with all these supporting light infantry. Of course, we've got rid of the cavalry somehow, but we're losing to spearmen with overlaps and stuff. It's just frustrating. 2 hits there, 2 hits. The two-handed cutting weapon, which can win a tie, gets a +1 if it ties with spearmen. That just hasn't done the business there at all. And what's going on here? These very shot up pikemen, really, because they're in a command with all sorts of different people. They've just not had the command and control. I've been trying to push them forward. I've been trying to push these forward. I've been trying to rally them as the laser weapons have been pinging hits onto these guys left, right, and centre. They end up trying to mug this light horse unit just to stop the laser death weapons, piling more and more hits onto them. The laser death weapons are hitting every time they shoot. And back over here, we are just about ready to try and finish off these guys, but no, they're not going to do it. Pikemen with support of an elephant against cavalry. So the elephant gives pikemen are on 2, elephant gives a +3, takes it to 3. The cavalry are at 0 against infantry. They're at -1 because of the presence of the elephant discomforting them. So you've got a 4-factor shift there, 3-factor shift because of the injury, and still they're winning. They're still holding on, even though my pike guy is just desperately stabbing sideways. There's just some inherent resilience in these Syracusans completely. And then where do we end up? Looking way over that, there's just this one cavalryman remaining, but he's being chased around. These spearmen are just running all over the table, pushing back the dregs of my cavalry. If I look at this, that light horse I think has come from over the other side. So I've lost a couple of light horse. I've lost a companion. It could be worse. I think there's only 1 cavalry gone there, but it's certainly not the chomp of all the companions and the light horse rolling up that spear line and clattering into the death rays that I was really hoping for at all. Over here, this fight is still going on. This is dreadful. These guys should have been eliminated a long time ago, but no, they're even managing to bring up reserves to help them even more. The lone spearman is doing the Thracian. He must be exhausted. He's been the only decent unit in my army in this game, and it's still a massive struggle. And look, boom, one of the pike flanks has been entirely wiped out by death rays now, and the other one is at death's door. These guys have taken hits. The death rays have just been pinging them, and with this really eclectic, too messy command structure with too many different troop types doing too many different things, these guys have just stood there and taken, I would say, a battering, but a lasering, a lighting, a heating. They've just been burnt up by Archimedes death rays all the way along the line. And yeah, there they go, completely obliterated. 2 pike flanks is wiped out entirely by artillery shooting, which isn't something you see every day. And that's a very, very difficult thing for my army to survive. So look at all these casualties. The whole phalanx wiped out. Both of the spearmen wiped out. Well, 2/3 of the companions wiped out. My light horse wiped out. 2/3 of the Thracians wiped out. And that's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22 more than my army. And that's it. Unable to close on the death rays, unable to break through against people they looked like they should have done, just outmatched, outfought all the way along the line. And Alexander very much fails to invade Syracuse in a game which has pretty much left almost nothing intact, almost nothing intact at all there in the entire army, which is utterly quite remarkable. And those death rays sit there, very few casualties in that corner over on the World of Steve. So there you go.
Hello and welcome to the latest Madaxeman.com Army List ADLG podcast, in which I'm joined by Rick